Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 16 keyboard suites I couldn't live without. We did orchestral suites in our last video, and now we're tackling the keyboard, the piano or harpsichord or whatever key thing you want to use. There are just as many of these, or more of these probably, than there are orchestral suites. And, a suite changed its name throughout our musical history. In the Baroque period, we were talking, generally speaking, about dance music, collections of dances, maybe a little prelude or overture before, but also character pieces that were grouped together with nicknames, the tender lady or the, bumptious drunkard, whatever you want. So they were also little programmatic character things. And all of that originated in the Baroque period. And these works were grouped together in suites, which you can play as you will. And some of them are delightful. But then as the 19th century wore on, and in the 18th century and 19th century wore on, the suite became a different sort of thing. Not just dance music, but also, songs without words, for example, which aren't even in my list. I mean, kill me now. Just amazing little groups of programmatic or descriptive pieces that weren't too long and that made for wonderful collections of contrasting items. And here they are, my 16 faves from the Baroque period to last week. Well, at least through the 19th century, basically. First, the Bach Partitas for harpsichord. A partita is the same thing as a suite. Bach wrote a bunch of collections of keyboard works, the French suites, the English suites, and the partitas. Those are the three big ones. And I chose the partitas because they were the only works out of that series that Bach actually arranged to have published in his lifetime. And they got somewhat equivocal reviews because people thought that Bach wrote down too much, that they were very notey, and that he wrote out all the ornaments and he didn't give the performer much opportunity to, mess with the music. And that's what's wonderful about them. They're extremely complete. These are big, beefy, emotionally gripping works. They really are. They're very intense, I think. Because like most of Bach, I find very intense, sometimes relentless. But these are amazing pieces, and they last, a good couple of hours or so if you're going to do all of them, which I don't recommend you do at a sitting. Take them one at a time, but it's a wonderful collection of works. And I grouped them together. I mean, I'm clumping some things together here because it just makes sense. It just makes sense to turn you loose on the whole thing. And I preempt those of you who are going to snatch them from me in your own lists. If you want to use them, you'll have to duplicate. Ha-ha! But feel free to duplicate. That's perfectly fine. Next, Rameau, his suites for harpsichord. There aren't that many of those. Rameau was one of the great orchestral musicians, although he wrote mostly operas and things like that, but he didn't start until he was like 50, writing for the stage. And his orchestration is brilliant, and his dance music is incredibly physical and rhythmic and visceral. And some of that wound up in his keyboard suites, but there's only like 4 of them, plus a few miscellaneous extra pieces. So it's very easy to get your hands on it or get your ears around it rather quickly. And it's so brilliant and charming and delicious. Lots of people have very strong feelings about the harpsichord particularly, although Rameau works very well on the piano, as does Bach. But I enjoy the sound of the harpsichord in this music. I really, really do. I think it adds a certain piquancy and a rhythmic thrust that the piano doesn't quite match. And in Rameau particularly, he's so attuned to the coloristic possibilities of the music. So I usually listen to the music on harpsichord, but if Marcel Meyer's playing it on the piano, I'm happy. So then we've got Couperin. Francois Couperin. There was a whole Couperin family. There was Louis and Fred and Ethel and, Marvin Couperin. There's lots of Couperins flying around in France. But the big one was Francois, and he wrote like a bazillion harpsichord suites. There's lots of them collected in books and stuff, and you can just pick and choose whatever you want. A lot of his pieces aren't just dances; they are character pieces. There's birds and there's stuff going on in these works, and they're just deliciously fun. So that basically covers a lot of the Baroque period. Yay! With one exception we'll get to later. After Couperin's Chopin, his Preludes, Opus 28. Yes, this is a suite. It's preludes in all the major and minor keys, 24 of the suckers, right? Something like that. And they're preludes to nothing. They're just preludial. They introduce each other, if anything, and you don't have to play them all as a set, but if you do, it lasts about 40 minutes long, and it's marvelous. I mean, they're very carefully grouped and contrasted. It's probably my favorite work of Chopin, the Preludes, because they just encapsulate everything that's possible for Chopin to do in a tiny space. It's just, oh gosh, it's so beautiful. Harmonically, they're just voluptuous and marvelous. Then there's Alkan, 49 esquisses, sketches, little sketches, 49 of the suckers, miniatures grouped all together as a suite. It's also a remarkable piece of music, full of strange and interesting concepts and ideas and images. He's such an amazing composer. Alkan was. I mean, and he's only become a thing. Like it all known in the past few decades. So yes, we definitely need to have some Alkan there, and those sketches are terrific. You're gonna have such a good time tiddling around with them. Sibelius, Kyllikki. What is a Kyllikki? It has something to do with the Kalevala, like everything he did. I have no clue what a Kyllikki is. I mean, but they are three pieces, very evocative and imaginative. Sibelius was he wrote a lot of piano music just to make a book, and his piano works are supposed to be uninteresting, and a lot of them are. I mean, he was, again, another one who was like Rameau. He was an orchestral music guy. But every so often, his imagination caught fire, and he churned out something really, really special in the way of keyboard music. And most of his keyboard pieces were suites. They were groups of pieces that he stuck together. But this one is really united by a theme and an atmosphere and a name, and you should get to know these works. They're really, really delightful. Then we have Debussy. Images, books 1 and 2. Oh my goodness. The Images they're 2 books of 3 pieces each. And they are little suites and 3 movements. What do I need to tell you? I mean, Debussy was, the piano music guy to end all piano music guys. After Chopin, he was like the great piano composer. And his concept of keyboard sonority and harmony was wholly special and unique. And these pieces are just, you've got goldfish and pagodas, and that may be the estampe. I don't know. There's another set too, Prince, the estampe, the Prince, which are similar. They're all wonderful. They're just all wonderful. I can't choose between them. I really can't. But I stuck the Images together because, there's 2 books of them, so you get more. If I said, you could say the Preludes too, the Debussy Preludes, 2 books of them, 12 each. Any of those are keyboard suites in their way, but the Images are actual, like you play all 3 of them at once. The Preludes, you don't really have to. You can just do what you want. But, I've never seen anyone just do one Image. I mean, they do, but, normally in the way that they're recorded and presented, you get both books of them, and they are unbelievably evocative, programmatic works for piano that are scintillating and mysterious and just, yummy. Oh my God, of course, we have to have Mussorgsky, Pictures in an Exhibition, the original version for piano, for keyboard. It's such a wonderful work. Not just in Ravel's orchestration or anyone else's orchestration, because there's like a dozen of them now. But what a fabulously genial way to experience. It was a tribute. It was a tribute to a friend of Mussorgsky's who had passed away, and he took a selection of his his work, his pictures, and he illustrated each one as a piano piece with promenades between them to unite the whole cycle together, walking from one picture to the next. And it's people have said that it really is an orchestral work because it's not very pianistic, and that's true. I mean, that's really true. You can sense in some parts of it, particularly at the end, the Great Gate of Kiev and some of the other things, that Mussorgsky must have had some sort of, greater than merely piano sonority behind the music. But it works really well as a piano piece, and the harmony and melodic content is so original that it's absolutely breathtaking. So that's a major suite for piano, as is Schumann, his Davidsbündlertänze. Now, I do not choose this because it's about David, my namesake. It was actually, the Davidsbündler was for Schumann an imaginary association of musical sophisticates who were united against the Philistines. David fought Goliath, the Philistines, and he thought he was very much in the minority, maybe part of his, paranoia, which eventually drove him crazy. But this is a wonderful piece that is not as well known. It's not as well known as his other big pieces, the Carnival and Papillon and Chrysleriana and things like that. I don't know why. I really don't. I'm not a major Schumann fan. I never have been. And so, for especially all this piano stuff, I tend to like his late piano works and some of the odder things that he did, the four fugues and things like that. So this one always hit me. I'm not quite sure why, but it did. So it's on my list of works I couldn't live without. It's just, I think, brilliant and fun and full of sly wit and character. So there you go. Poulenc, 8 Nocturnes. Poulenc wrote a couple wonderful cycles. He did some improvisations and impromptus and Les Soirées de Nazel and these other things. But the Nocturnes are not all terribly nocturnal. We usually think of Nocturnes as sort of these hypnotic, soft, breezy things. Not all of these pieces are like that. Some of them are pretty perky, and they work very well as a collection. They're very beautiful, and there is in all of Poulenc's music. He was one of those composers who had a style that was so personal that you can instantly tell who wrote it and what he was doing. And he has recurring themes. And for example, there are bits of dialogues of the Carmelites in these Nocturnes. And really beautiful moments that you'll recognize from other pieces of his if you know his other works. I don't think this particular suite, this set of pieces, is as well known as it deserves to be. His piano music tends not to be terribly difficult, not extremely virtuosic. It's just loaded with reference, with character, and with affection, or affect, if you want to put it that way. And so it takes a certain caliber of pianist, I think, to project it well. But, it's so beautiful. These are lovely, lovely works. Then Dvorak, the Humoresques. Remember those? The old da 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 da. Yeah, that's the one that goes. It's the 5th Humoresque, isn't it? Oh my goodness, these are brilliant little pieces, little gems. Oh my God, they're studies in proto-jazz harmony. Believe it or not, they really are. Listen to them. Listen to the 4th, the 5th. When they get to the cadential parts, really da 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 da. It could come right out of Porgy and Bess. Of course, Dvorak's pupil was Reuben Goldmark, who taught Gershwin. So there is a connection there. But beyond that, Dvorak in the Humoresques was exploring, what he found in the New World, that, African-American harmony and Native American music and stuff like that. He encapsulated that kind of thing in these little pieces which apparently at one point he was going to call Scottish dances or something. I don't know. He had this sort of interesting view of ethnic music, let's just put it that way. But it fascinated him. And the Humoresques are so much more interesting than people give them credit for being. I made a video about them with musical samples if you want to go listen to it. I mean, you're really going to be surprised and amazed by what happens in these pieces. They're really, really cool. Next, Satie. We've got to have some Eric Satie's Trois Gnossiennes. No one really knows what a Gnossienne is. It's to do with Gnostics and strange, who knows. The point with Satie is that the titles are supposed to be completely confounding, and they are. And the Gnossiennes are in the same style as the Gymnopédie, which I assume somebody will stuff on one of their lists, hopefully. They are absolutely stripped down, almost rhythmless, sparse, austere, hypnotic, remarkable for the time in which they were written, which was the late 19th century. They are anti-romantic and exotic and almost minimalist pieces. Really amazing. I mean, Satie was a visionary when it came to that sort of thing, and he wrote lots of little suites of piano pieces, some of which have very funny titles, 6 flabby preludes for a dog, or the pieces in the form of a pear, or things like that. But I think these are just lovely works, and they're fun and meditative, and you can put them on and just sort of, zone out while they're playing. Carl Nielsen, his suite opus 45, it's subtitled the Luciferian, not in terms of Satan, but meaning angel of light, which is kind of interesting for a piano suite, isn't it? Nielsen also wrote very, very few mature piano works, but the ones that he did are extraordinary. I mean, there's some really amazing stuff. And this suite is one of those pieces. It's a fully mature work of Nielsen. It sounds like nobody else. And it's very, very rewarding and interesting to listen to. It has its own world, its own sound concept for keyboard writing. It's really, really fascinating. It's not surprising that, he didn't write that much keyboard music, because it was obviously he put a lot of effort into rethinking the medium and what he was going to do with it. So it's an extraordinary piece, and it's well worth getting to know. Ravel, the Tombeau de Couperin. Most people know this from its orchestral version, which is not complete. Ravel didn't orchestrate all the movements of the piano suite. Others did, by the way, so sometimes it comes complete. Oh gosh, this is delicious. It's a Baroque homage to Couperin, who we mentioned up above, and it's so beautiful. It's so full of wonderful tunes, and there is in Ravel this sort of childlike innocence in terms of his harmony. And the purity of his line, and gosh, I don't know. I could listen to the Tombeau de Couperin forever in either version. I mean, it's just amazing. Then we've got Handel. See, here's the other Baroque guy. Handel published, or his publisher published, 8 suites for harpsichord. He really wrote many more than that. But like most Handel, I mean, it's just a mess. There's pieces flying all over the place, and no one knows, how he should have collated them or organized them or whatever. There's something like 15 or 16 harpsichord suites altogether, but the 8 great suites are the biggies. And it contains, in the 5th suite, the Harmonious Blacksmith, the most famous keyboard piece that Handel wrote, and one of the most famous keyboard pieces from the Baroque period. It's a wonderful theme and variations on a juicy little tune. Dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da dum ba da da da. I mean, you know the tune, right? No one knows why it's called the Harmonious Blacksmith. It just is. But these 8 suites are just full of wonderfully delightful, characterful keyboard music. And as always with Haydn, these suites were supposed to have a certain regular form in the Baroque period. You had your Allemande, your Courant, your Sarabande, your Gigue, that kind of thing. You had the obligatory dances, and then you had the optional dances. Well, Handel, everything's optional. Handel is the most optional composer who ever lived. Each one is is special and different, a wonderful arrangement and assortment of fun little keyboard sniglets, and I just love them. And they tend to be recorded in a clump. So it's about 2 CDs worth of stuff, and you can get them all as a group, and they are wonderfully fun. And last but not least, Grieg, his Holberg suite, which is one of those pieces that, I don't know, it just hit me when I was a kid, and I never got over it. I adore it. I adore the string orchestra version, which also is not quite complete, and the piano original. And the piano original is really better. It gives the piece a certain rhythmic backbone that a string orchestra arrangement doesn't quite capture. Although the final movement is really violin music, and it's evoked on the piano, but gosh, the tunes are just so fabulous. And this is like the Tombeau de Couperin. It's another work of neoclassicism. It's the suite from Holberg's time, which was the 18th century. So it's an evocation of Baroque dance suites, which we find in a lot of these keyboard works. And so there you go, my 16 keyboard suites that I can't live without. And I just know that all of you have your own list up to 16. You can repeat composers, you could copy from me, you could do whatever you want to do. Just go for it and give me your list. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.